Hey guys, it's Henry here again and welcome back to another episode of Apparel Academy. Did you know that in embroidery and custom apparel, you can charge a lot more with seemingly very little effort? If you're looking for extra ways to generate your income, you need to take a look at your business model and find more cost-effective ways with your products and services. If you do that, you'll soon realize that you may be missing out on a huge profit potential. Luckily, I'm here to make that easier for you. So in this episode of Apparel Academy, I'm going to show you several ways that you can mark up an order and make more money without spending more money. Okay, so jumping right into method number one, which is built-in fees. Now, built-in fees can be broken down into two separate categories, either setup fees or digitizing fees. So let's first talk about setup fees. And as you guys know, time is money, and that is especially true in the embroidery and custom apparel industry. Every minute you spend setting up your order, you could be running your machine, so therefore you're having some downtime if your machine is not running. So the concept of setup fees is to compensate you for the time that it takes to set up a very complicated order or an order that's very personalized or has a lot of variety. I actually have a previous video on YouTube talking about setup fees in deep detail and several ways that you can present the setup fee, either within the product itself or as a separate fee. So if you want to check out that video, I've linked it in the card above and in the description below. Digitizing is an art form in itself and it takes time to master. And every embroidery design has to be digitized, so this is something that's unavoidable if you want to fulfill the order for your client. So obviously there are two separate ways that people go about digitizing. Either they take it on themselves or they outsource it. What's important to note here is whether you do that in-house on your own or you outsource it to a professional digitizer, you need to think about your profit margin even if you're acting as just the middleman. So many times what I've seen happen is people will pass on the digitizing fee to their customers, but they're not thinking about potentially making a small profit, acting as the middleman that has to coordinate the actual design from the digitizer. Because that coordination takes time and there might be some changes in the digitizing itself if it's not done up to par, there needs to be a compensation for that time spent. So you might want to consider having a profit margin or a small padding to compensate you for that time for the coordination of that design in your digitizing fee. So with setup fees and digitizing fees, I've also mentioned in the past that you can be very flexible and versatile with it. For example, you can choose to waive these fees when you're running a promotion or if you want to add more value for your customers, or if your customers are ordering in bulk, you can incentivize them to order more and waive these fees as a result of their larger order. So I actually have a pricing video that goes into this topic in depth and teaches you the fundamental concepts on how to price based on time. Because as you see, the general theme here is that setup fees and digitizing fees need to compensate for the time it takes for you to set up complex orders or for you to outsource the digitizing. So if you're interested to learn more about how to price your items based on a time-based formula and it takes into consideration these type of fees, go check out that video here on the card above, and I've also linked it in the description below. Moving on to tip number two, which is being able to charge more based on design selection. One thing that I would recommend you doing is to create a spec sheet of 10 different color threads that the customers can choose from and limit them to these 10 most common colors. By limiting your customers to these 10 to 15 colors to choose from, you can really make it more efficient in the design selection process. Because many times a customer might ask you for a color that you don't have, and then you have to order that from the vendor and it takes several days to ship, and it might be only used once before it gets put away in the cabinet. This brings me to my second point, which is if the customers do want these specialty colors or colors outside of these 10 to 15 default colors that you've chosen, you can actually upsell that and charge them more for these specialty colors. It might not even be for the threads that you don't have in stock that you might have to order. If you don't have those in stock, obviously you would charge that to the customer. But even for threads that you do have in stock that are outside of these 10 to 15 colors that you've chosen for the customers to choose from, you can actually charge a few dollars more for that design choice. Having that extra selection of colors makes the customer feel that they're getting a premium and a value add to their purchase, and as a result, they're willing to pay a little bit more for that premium. For example, you can charge a flat fee of $5 to $10 or whatever you're comfortable with for every color that the customer chooses outside of your normal colors. But you can waive that color selection fee if they order over a certain number of pieces, for example, 15 or 20 pieces. That really guarantees that the customer is placing a larger order, and as a result, you can waive that fee as a value add to your customer. So again, this along with the digitizing fee and setup fees that I mentioned in the previous point are really versatile in not only getting you more revenue, but making it seem like you're providing a lot more value to your customers by waiving it if they place a larger order. Along the same lines, you can also charge a flat fee for metallic thread. They're gonna be harder to embroider, harder to set up, and you have to run at a lower speed. And actually, speaking of metallic thread, you can also check out our video that we've done on tips and tricks on how to get quality results on metallic thread when you're embroidering. Make sure to check that out here on the card above or in the link in the description below if you're interested. The second part of this tip on design selection fees is to create a range of fonts for the customers to choose from. In a similar vein to color selection, font selection is also a premium that you can offer. You can have a print sheet with all the fonts that you know will stitch out very, very well and are very easy to do. And those 10 or 20 default fonts are the available range of selection for your customers. And then you can have a set of premium fonts that the customers can choose from, and any premium fonts will also have an additional flat fee. The concept works exactly the same as design selection in terms of colors, and you can also add this on to your order or waive it if the customer places a larger order similar to color selection. The combination of color selection and font selection and more premium options for those is such an easy way for you to break out the normal fonts and the premium fonts, or the normal colors and the premium colors, and charge more for the premium ones without any effort. Moving on to point number 3, which is having add-on charges by way of design placement. For example, the commercial machines that we have here at Ricoma can actually do 270-degree cap rotation angle. We can do that in one single run without rehooping. What that means for you is you can do the front of the cap and both sides of the cap from ear to ear without having to rehoop the design. So if you have a machine with those type of capabilities, you can easily do a 3-sided design on a cap and charge a few dollars more for those different design placements without actually having to rehoop the actual garment. All it costs you was just a little bit more thread and a little bit more embroidery time. There's no rehooping or downtime that's actually necessary. For example, on Etsy, you can typically see that people charge between $5 to $10 more for the side of cap embroidery or an extra back of the cap embroidery. If that's something that you're interested in, we actually recently just launched a video on YouTube showcasing our commercial 2-head machine embroidering on 3 sides of a cap without rehooping in one single run. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check that out in the video link above or in the description below. All right, on to point number 4, which is to offer 3D puff embroidery for very, very little time and cost. With 3D puff embroidery, you really make your design stand out, and you can even use it to just accent one part of the overall design. This is especially popular on a lot of cap embroidery and even on some flat items to really make parts of the design stand out and have that 3-dimensional look. If you're not sure how to achieve 3D puff embroidery and that feel and look, we have actually done several tutorials on YouTube showcasing step-by-step how to do this and how to achieve this effect. If you're interested in those, I've linked those videos here so you can check them out. Overall, I would estimate that a little piece of foam will only cost you 10 to 20 cents, maybe 20 to 30 cents on a design, and that's just a conservative estimate. So really, for 20 to 30 cents extra, you can add a lot more value to your customer and charge for that premium. In fact, if you just look on Etsy alone, you will find that most embroiderers will charge between $20 to $30 extra just for 3D puff embroidery. Finally, the last tip I will give you is to charge more for hard to embroider items. For example, caps like Richardson caps are notoriously known to be very difficult to embroider, so you can consider charging more if the customer wants Richardson caps. Also, other typical items like Carhartt jackets, very heavy and very dense, and might need special attachments or a table set up to actually hold the garment in place and support the heavy garment. So things like Carhartt jackets is also something that takes more setup time and harder to embroider because of their thickness and their bulk, and those items you can charge more for. Also, if you're interested to see how this all fits together in terms of your setup fees and other flat fees that you can charge to increase your revenue and how that will impact your overall profit margin on each item, make sure to check out this episode of Apparel Academy that I've linked here in the card above, where I actually go into detail a tool that we've created called the Profit Calculator and show you step by step these different inputs that will result in a final output of how much profit you can make on a monthly basis or even a yearly basis, depending on your circumstances. Alright guys, that's it for us for today. Generating more revenue doesn't necessarily mean working harder, it means working smarter. So looking at your setup fees and overall kind of overhead costs and these fixed costs that you will need to have in the process of embroidery or custom apparel in general is going to help you determine which areas you can profit more on and pass that on to your customers. As always, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Ricoma HQ. We post there daily so you can be a part of the conversation there. I also want to remind you to join our free Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery. I've linked that in the description below that you can check out on Facebook. There's over 18,000 people in there right now, apparel decorators, embroiderers, screen printers, people from all sorts of backgrounds sharing their tips and tricks on this industry. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful and see you guys next time.